In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Adorable Will, I want to pray these titles, but I am unable to do it. Come and do it with me, and I'll do everything well. Jesus and Mary, I praise you and I thank you, one with Luisa, fortunate and victorious to have possession of the divine will. Luisa, who jealously guards the divine will. Luisa, whose sufferings smile before the victories, before the triumphs, and before the conquests. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, who fraternizes with everything that is holy. Luisa, sister of all the triune God's works. Luisa, who has Jesus himself in her power. Luisa, who works together with the triune God's act and extends herself to everyone. Luisa, who wants to do good to everyone. Luisa, universal bearer of good to everyone and everything. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus' volition. Luisa, whose love wounds God's love. Luisa, whose love gives the triune gods love the occasion of making their hidden love come forth. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, the celestial Mama's daughter. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter. Luisa, one who the supreme volition looks at as its birth. Luisa, who wants to grow in the supreme volition's arms with its maternal cares. Luisa, the supreme volition's tiny one. Luisa, daughter who the divine mother clasps to its bosom. Luisa, daughter whose motion, word, step, the divine mother fortifies with its strength. Luisa, who sees herself little and strong. Luisa, who sees herself little and victor. Luisa, the supreme volition's little daughter who conquers this mother. Luisa, creature who sees herself strong in the love. Luisa, creature who sees herself strong in the suffering. Luisa, creature who sees herself strong in the operating. Luisa, creature of whom strength is the halo. Luisa, invincible one before God and over herself. Luisa, little Victor, whose weaknesses and passions tremble before her. Luisa, creature whose infantile strength makes God Himself smile, and He changes justice into love, into forgiveness. Luisa, who the supreme volition raises in its likeness. Luisa, the supreme volition's honor. Luisa, the supreme volition's triumph. Luisa, the supreme volition's glory. Jesus and Mary, I thank you and I esteem you one with Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter, and all times are hers. Luisa, one who finds creation in act and gives Jesus her kisses and filial love. Luisa, Jesus' daughter. Luisa, for whom Jesus converts all things into joy, defense, and into her property. Luisa, one who finds the little epic of innocent Adam, and with Adam she gives Jesus Adam's innocent kisses, his chaste embraces, his love of son. Luisa, one who Jesus gives as right of her property, the infinite joy of his paternity. Luisa, one to whom Jesus cannot deny anything. Luisa, one who repeats for Jesus the scenes of giving him everything. Luisa, one whose exchanges of works and reciprocal love form the paradise of God and of her soul. Luisa, one who lives in the celestial sojourn of the divine will, who is thousands of times blessed. Luisa, one who enters into the divine will as queen. Luisa, one who comes before the triune God, courted by all their works. Luisa, repeater of the divine will's works. Luisa, whose littleness spaces out in the divine will and takes one of their works and now another. Luisa, one who descends into the incarnation of the Word and is invested by his love. Luisa, one who descends into the incarnation of the Word and is impearled with his tears. Luisa, one who descends into the incarnation of the Word and is adorned with his wounds. Luisa, one who descends into the incarnation of the Word and is possessor of his prayers. Luisa, one who all the works of the Word surround inside and out. Luisa, who all the works of the Word convert for her into joys, beatitude, strength, with the inseparability of her Jesus, as in a sacred temple that he has in her heart. Luisa, repeater of Jesus' life. Luisa, creature who is true queen. Luisa, everything is hers. Luisa, creature who surprises the triune God with their works, enraptures them, and forms their happiness. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his will. Luisa, whose acts in the divine will serve souls in order to let them enter into it. Luisa, the soul who enters the celestial city of divine will and breaks the prison of the human will. Luisa, the soul in whom the divine craftsman formed the new citadel of the soul to let other souls enter and form other citadels so that a kingdom may be formed. Luisa, first soul who is model of the others. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his volition. Luisa, the soul who God makes himself temple of. Luisa, like a little host that has her Jesus consecrated in it and forms the little living lamp that always burns. Luisa, God's glory and triumph. Luisa, little host that prays, loves, lives of divine will. Luisa, little host that substitutes for Jesus' humanity on earth. Luisa, little host that takes Jesus' place of sufferings. Luisa, little host that calls the whole army of God's works to make a cortege for God. Luisa, little host who holds creation and redemption as hers and acts as commander over them. Jesus and Mary, I esteem you and I honor you, one with Luisa, little host who places creation and redemption as army around God. Luisa, little host who is always at the head to make God's works do what she wants. Luisa, little host who lives in the triune God's divine temple, whose interests, solicitudes, prayers are that the Fiat embrace everyone, set aside all evils, and place itself in the heart of everyone, to make itself life of every creature. Luisa, little host who lives in God's temple, whose office is more beautiful, more holy, more important, more useful to heaven and earth. Luisa, one who lives in the divine will, in who God's love and power make all the displays, industries, and stratagems. Luisa, one in whom the divine will makes its sumptuous temple. Luisa, one who is always occupied with God. Luisa, creature who enters into the power of the triune God's present acts and does what they do. Luisa, creature invested by God's creative strength and love that always rises. Luisa, creature for whom God really does everything. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, creature whose little love the divine will uses as spokesman to let it resound in her acts and ask for its kingdom. Luisa, creature who the divine will wants as intermediary. Luisa, creature whose prayer serves to call God to earth to live in each creature. Luisa, creature whose prayer serves to make the divine will and all its works pray that it come to reign on earth. Luisa, creature whose prayer serves to prepare the place in God Himself for the creature. Luisa, creature whose prayer is a divine prayer, prodigious that knows how to obtain everything. Luisa, one who receives the effects, the complete fruit of Jesus' continuous generation of divine life, and who reproduces them in an admirable way. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his volition. Luisa, who voluntarily and for love remains possessor of the divine will. Luisa, the divine will's heiress. Luisa, one who knows how to decide to live in the divine will in order to give her possession of it. Luisa, one who lives in the divine will and possesses as her property the good that the divine volition has given her in every act. Luisa, who feels in herself the nature of the good because the good is in her power. Luisa, one who has at her disposition goodness, patience, love, light, heroism of the sacrifice. Luisa, one who possesses the divine will and possesses the everything as gifts and property that the divine will brings with itself. Luisa, who prays and united with Jesus, does not spare the sacrifice of her life for a cause so holy and divine, and for love more heroic and great towards all creatures. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his volition. Luisa, one who is incorporated into everything the divine will has done, does, and will do. Luisa, daughter whose love Jesus felt in the love of his mother. Luisa, whose tiny little drops of love were invested by the seas of love of Jesus' mama. Luisa, one in whose acts, love, and will Jesus feels heaven flow. Luisa, creature who Jesus feels in heaven. Luisa, creature whose acts, love, will invest the Empyrean, invade everyone, and form one single act, one single love, one single will. Luisa, creature in whom all of heaven feels itself loved and glorified. Luisa, creature who feels herself loved by the whole of heaven. Luisa, of whom Jesus wanted the sacrifice of her life, that he did not ask of anyone, that cost her so much. Jesus and Mary, I honor you and I cherish you, one with Luisa, good daughter, whose sacrifice was necessary for the divine will in order to make itself known. Luisa, who the divine will made use of as a channel to make itself known. Luisa, whose sacrifice the divine will makes use of as powerful weapon to let itself conquer, unveil itself, open its bosom of light, manifest who it is. Luisa, creature who submitted herself to the sacrifice of losing her life, losing the mastery of herself to have the divine volition move itself, to make itself known so as to restore its divine life. Luisa, blessed daughter. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter. Luisa, one who receives the triune God's heartbeat of created things. Luisa, one who receives the triune God's aim. Luisa, one who receives the triune God's knowledges. Luisa, one who gives the triune God her heartbeat. Luisa, one who gives the triune God her exchange of love. Luisa, creature who remains enriched in an admirable way with the works of her Creator. Luisa, creature who gives the triune God new glory, as if their works were being repeated. Luisa, creature in whom everything the triune God has done passes through her channel. Luisa, creature who, by knowing the triune God's works, repeats the new glory and the new exchange of love. Luisa, one who is magnet of the divine acts. Luisa, who has wounded the triune God with her acts. Luisa, whose magnet of acts enrapture the triune God and render them sweet prisoners in her soul. Luisa, who the triune God wounds, enraptures, and imprisons in them. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, one who lives in the divine will, and everything is hers. Luisa, to whom it is given everything that has been done by God, the saints, and by everyone. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, in whose power the divine will places Jesus' works, the whole of creation, Jesus' life, his tears, his sufferings. Luisa, the one who knows and loves the divine will, and who feels the need of retracing Jesus' works and sufferings in order to ask him that his will be known and reign. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, one who is always at her place in God's will, who conserves the innocence and holiness. Luisa, she alone is the triumphant one in the space of the universe. Luisa, the standard bearer. Luisa, who gathers together the whole army of creation to bring them to God with speaking voice and with full knowledge, the glory, the honor, and the tribute of everything and everyone. Luisa, who the divine will raises and nourishes, and forms of her its great glory and honor. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his will. Luisa, divine will's daughter, who Jesus feels the need of love, that she knows its secrets. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his volition. Luisa, one who takes part of all that the divine will does in heaven and in the whole creation. Luisa, member of the divine will. Luisa, one in whom the divine will develops its operating life. Luisa, one in whom the divine will develops its sanctifying life. Jesus and Mary, I cherish you and I love you, one with Luisa, one in whom the divine will develops its fortifying life. Luisa, one who acts as conqueror. Luisa, in whose goods and works heaven feels conqueror of. Luisa, creature whose breaths heaven feels itself inseparable from. Luisa, creature who feels inseparable from the joys and happiness of heaven. Luisa, creature who feels inseparable from the peace of the saints and of hers. Luisa, creature in whom firmness and confirmation of good convert into nature. Luisa, creature who feels the life of heaven flow in her members, more than blood in her veins. Luisa, one from whom everything is inseparable. Luisa, from the whole creation, nothing can separate themselves from her. Luisa, one in whom Jesus' pains, life works, surround and invest, taking the place of honor and letting themselves be bound by her. Luisa, who always feels herself little. Luisa, creature who is the true tiny one in the midst of all of Jesus' works. Luisa, fortunate tiny one, beloved by everyone, who arrives at the giving, the beautiful, the new conquests, the new joys to heaven. Luisa, the happiest creature. Luisa, Jesus' good daughter. Luisa, one for whom everything is possible. Luisa, whose human littleness arrives at wanting and doing her acts of God. Luisa, who loves the divine acts so much that she would give her life to defend them, to love, to give God all the glory, the first place of honor to one alone of these divine acts. Luisa, who remains in voluntary imprisonment in God and God in her. Luisa, inseparable with God. Luisa, in whom God feels loved and finds his place in the creature. Luisa, who feels loved by God and has her place in the Supreme Being. Luisa, by virtue of the divine will that she is animated, makes arise and calls again all the acts of creatures in God to give him everything and love him for everyone. Luisa, creature who, with the divine volition, makes herself the thought of every intelligence. Luisa, creature who, with the divine volition, makes herself the look of every eye. Luisa, creature who, with the divine volition, makes herself the word of every voice. Luisa, creature who, with the divine volition, makes herself the heartbeat of every heart. Luisa, creature who, with the divine volition, makes herself the motion of every work. Luisa, creature who, with the divine volition, makes herself the step of every foot. Luisa, whose human littleness feels drowned by love and feels the need of retracing everything. Luisa, one who has such accord with God as to form one single act, one single love. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, who receives the Supreme Being's daily sowing and labors with her Creator in the field of her soul. Luisa, who with Jesus will make a beautiful harvest and have abundant nourishments to be able to supply the others. Luisa, who will be happy with Jesus with one single happiness. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter. Luisa, creature whose spontaneous sacrifice, without force, pleases Jesus so much that he encloses them in his heart. Jesus and Mary, I love you and glory to my Creator, one with Luisa, creature whose sacrifices and love Jesus finds his divine way. His spontaneous sacrifices, his love, and that always loves. Luisa, the soul who lives in the divine will, who loves, operates, suffers spontaneously. Luisa, who the divine will has with itself and communicates to her its spontaneity to have her with itself in its love that runs, in its works that never cease. Luisa, creature who is all eyes to look at the divine Fiat, to love and work in it, and to praise its power and creative magnificence. Luisa, creature whose true love places Jesus in the condition to forget everything and disposes him to concede that his will come to reign on earth. Luisa, creature whose love invests Jesus and runs in his whole being, in his works, and he feels her love anywhere and everywhere. Luisa, creature whose love disposes Jesus and imposes herself over him to give her surprising things and what she wants, even the kingdom of his will. Luisa, whose love Jesus saw run in the sky, investing the sun when he created the sun. Luisa, who formed a little place in all created things in order to love Jesus. Luisa, in whose true love Jesus found the little place in order to enclose his life. Luisa, whose true love Jesus saw when he came to earth, crowning him, invested all his humanity, flowed in his blood, in all his particles, as though kneading itself with Jesus. Luisa, in whose true love Jesus' tears found the little place where to pour themselves out. Luisa, in whose true love Jesus' love, his sufferings, his life found the refuge for where to be able to be in a secure place. Luisa, in whose true love Jesus' death found even the resurrection. Luisa, in whose true love the divine will found its kingdom, for where to reign. Luisa, whose true love will form the stake for where to burn everything, consuming everything that is not divine will form the place for where to be able to enclose the divine will. Luisa, in whose true love Jesus' works find their place, their hiding spot, to be able to continue the good and the operating virtue they possess. Luisa, who finds her little place in Jesus and in his works, and Jesus finds his place in her and all her acts. Luisa, who in the divine will forms her stake of love, to burn herself and all impediments that impedes the divine will's reigning in the midst of creatures. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his divine volition. Luisa, revealer of the triune God's love. Luisa, to whom the divine will cedes the weapons in order that they love each other with the qualities of the triune God's own love. Luisa, Jesus' daughter, Jesus' daughter. Luisa, daughter who loves Jesus with his love, in who Jesus delights so much as to exchange his acts with those of hers. Luisa, in whose soul Jesus vividly painted the acts of the divine will, done in creation and redemption. Luisa, creature who possesses the divine will, who finds herself in divine abyss. Luisa, in whose littleness the life and the works of the divine will, are, concentrated. Luisa, who possesses the creative strength and is under a copious rain that rains the divine will's works, its love, its multiplicity of its divine goods over her. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter, who acquired the right of daughter. Luisa, one who acquired the prerogative of the right of divine life. Luisa, one who acquired the life of the good she did in the divine will. Luisa, one who acquired the second prerogative of the right of property. Luisa, one who possesses the divine properties of the divine will. Luisa, one who feels herself master of the sanctity. Luisa, one who feels herself master of the light. Luisa, one who feels herself master of the grace. Luisa, one who feels herself master of the love. Luisa, one who feels herself master of all the divine goods. Jesus and Mary, I glorify you and I praise you, one with Luisa, one who acquired the third prerogative of the right of glory. Luisa, one who has the right of glorifying her Creator in everything. Luisa, one who has the right of remaining glorified in the glory of her Creator. Luisa, who finds everything in the divine will and everything is at her disposition. Luisa, to whom the divine will loves to cede its divine rights. Luisa, creature who the divine will loves as its true daughter. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, creature that the triune God gave the merit of divine acts. Luisa, creature who re-gives to the divine will as homage, love, and glory, that same life that it forms in her. Luisa, creature who the divine will feels reborn again in its arms. Luisa, creature who loses herself in the divine will and with full hands takes what she wants in order to help everyone. Luisa, creature who like light silently brings help, then withdraws. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, one who heaven is always open for. Luisa, creature who acquired the security and happiness, whose acts are in the power of the divine Fiat, and find themselves in heaven as her property. Luisa, whose acts await her in heaven, to court her and form her throne of glory. Luisa, whose acts in the divine volition act as narrators of the story of love that passes between the Creator and the creature. Luisa, who, while passing through the exile, her acts are in heaven as Jesus' conquests. Luisa, whose acts love Jesus as Jesus knows how to love. Luisa, whose acts adore with divine adoration. Luisa, whose acts form for Jesus celestial music in order to extol him, praise and thank him for the great portent of the operation of his will. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter.
You have reached the end of day 30 of the titles of Luisa. Fiat.